Alright, so we're starting Gitin Daf Samaches Amar Aleph in the middle of the Omid. It's around a third of the way down. Cecici li Sharem ושרות. It's a pasuk in Keheles. שלמה המלך is talking over here that Cecici li Sharem ושרות v'tanugos b'nei Odom shida v'shidos. So he made for me Sharem ושרות. The Gemara is going to touch what these things are. So what are they? Sharem ושרות elu minei zemer. These are different types of musical instruments. It's a lashon of shira. So sharim is lashon zachar and sharais is lashon nekeva because there's different types of instruments, maybe for zachorim and different. I would say that different instruments have different appeals to the zachorim and different instruments. I mean, it for those who like to darshan that music is deep in the soul of a person, it definitely makes a big difference. Fine. With tanugos b'nei odam elu brechas mechatzos. Tanugos b'nei odam are pools and bathhouses, because that's how in the times of the Gemara, that's very much the Tanugim, how they would describe it. Shida v'shidos. So what's Shida v'shidos? So Hacha Targimu in Bavel they explained it to mean Sheda v'shed sin, a male shade or shendalit if you're Hasidish, or v'shed sin, and a female shade. But Marav Amri and Eretz Yisrael they say Shidasa, a wagon, like Shida Teva Migdal, like we have throughout Shas, Mishnayos, etc. Amr B'Yechnan, Shloisha Meos Mine Shadim Hayu B'Shichin. There are 300 types of Shadim in Shichin. V'Sheda Atzma Ein Yedeh Mahi. And I don't know what exactly this Sheda is. So they're trying to figure out what this means exactly. So the Ben Yehoyada, I believe it is, explains that this is like the matriarch of the team of all the Shadim. And she appears in all different kinds of forms and colors and things like that. So Rabbi Yechon never saw all the different formations of this shade, whatever it may be. So that's what he's saying, that he didn't see the full extent and the full glory of exactly the whole story of this female shade. Now we know that the Shadim are parim v'ravim k'bnei Adam. That means that they have a zachar and a keva and there are echel b'shaisim. As we'll see, b'hemshach Gemara, the Gemara is going to get through all kinds of interesting zachin over here. Okay, Omar Mar. Yeah, I think now we can close the door. Omar Mar, like you learned, Hacha Targimu in Bavel they explained Shida v'shidos, the pasuk in Keheles of Shida v'shidos is Sheda v'shidsin, a male and a female Shadim. So Sheda v'shidsin l'may boile. What do you need it for? Why did he need it? So what's the question, why do you need it? So the Maharsha explains, because the Gemara Sanhedrin says in the sugya of Kishuf and Ma'inin and Mechashef and Oivi Yadayni, it's also to ask, it's also to be involved in Shadim. It's one of the things was to be shoyal, was to be mashbiah them, you can get them to work for you. So how could you say, so Lamai Bailan, the Gemara's question is, what could you use them for if it's usher to be mashbiah them, it's usher to get them to work for you in this way. So this is what the Gemara says, the Gemara answers, V'habayis bi b'noisei even shlema masa nivne. So when they were building the Beis HaMikdash, it was created with the even shlema, with complete stones. Now, the Isser is to cut, it's usher to cut the stones of the Beis HaMikdash with barzel, as we're going to see in the Gemara. And how do you cut the stones? So that's why he was able to use the shadim. But if not for this purpose of the Beis HaMikdash, it would be usher to use shadim. Okay. So Amar l'hu l'Rabban, so Shlomo Melech said to the Rabbanon, Heichi Abed, how could I do this to cut the stones? Now remember, Shlomo Melech became king, he was 12 years old. He wasn't such an old man. So he asked the Chachamim, and what should he do? So Amar l'hu the Chachamim told Shlomo, Ika Shemirid is the Shamir worm that's created from Sheshis Mebereshis, and it's very powerful, and it's able to cut through any sort of material. The Isi Moshe la'avnei ephod, that this is what Moshe used to carve out the names on the avnei ephod. He would put ink, the way, in simple explanation of what happened was that Moshe wrote on the stones exactly the letters that he needed for that specific stone, and then he put the shamir, and the shamir followed through that ink and cut exactly that place on the stone. And it's bechlal interesting if you want to look into it from a more academic perspective, a more scholarly perspective, what this is exactly. Does it exist nowadays? Does science hold of such a thing? All lavdafka, but it's something to think about, something interesting. So Amalahu Shlomo said to the Chacham, where do I find this thing? Relates, so they told him, "Isi sheda v'sheitzin kafshinu adodi." Catch get together a shade of a zachar and an akeva, and tie them together. And Rashi says, "Kafshinu kafam biyisurim loyma lehechanu," and tie them up and force them to tell it to you, pain them and torture them until they tell you where it is. Maybe they're going to know where it is and they'll tell you. So he took the advice of the Chachamim, took the male and female shade, tied them together, and started torturing them to force them to say it. So the question is, Taisus says, why didn't you ask Urim v'Tumim? Zog Taisus ki lerotu lishal b'Urim v'Tumim k'sheichanu lishal al yidei davar acher. Taisus on the bottom. Taisus says that you could really, technically speaking, they could have asked Urim v'Tumim, but when you have another availability to ask, we don't ask Urim v'Tumim. And another teretz to this question is that Urim v'Tumim were to know, should we do something, should we not? Should we go to this milchama, should we not? Over here, there was no question, should he build the Beis HaMikdash? David was already trying to do this. So the question was, where could I find the Shamir worm? It's not going to give a pinging of where it is, exact location, right? So the Urim v'Tumim wasn't for this kind of question. Okay. Amri, so the Shadim told him, Anan lo yadinu, we don't know. Dilma Ashmedai Malka the Shade Yoda. Maybe Ashmedai, the king of the Shadim, he knows. So it's interesting. The Ben Yoda learns that the Ashmedai is the name, like Parai and Mitzrayim. All the kings of Mitzrayim are called Parai. So Ashmedai is the king of the Shadim always. There's different ones over the different kufas. Okay. Yeah. So Dilma Ashmedai Malka the Shade Yoda. Maybe Ashmedai, who's the king of the Shadim, maybe he knows. So Amar Lahu Shlema said to the Shadim, Hey Chisa, where is he? So where is he going to tell me how to find the Shamir worm? So I'm related that the Shadim told him, Isa B'tur Plan, he's on a certain mountain, Karya Lebeira, Umali Lomaya, Umekasya Betinora, Vechasme Begushbanke. Ashmedai has a bar of water, and a bar in the ground on the mountainside, and he fills it up with water, and he covers it over with a stone, and he has a seal on the bar where he is. And this is where you can find him. When you see this, then this is where his hideout is, this is where he's at. Every day he goes up to Shemaim and he learns Yeshiva Shalmailo. And then after he finishes the first Seder in Yeshiva Shalmailo, he comes down to the second Seder in Yeshiva Shalmata. Okay? And after that he comes to his bar and he checks the stamp, the seal on his bar to see, to make sure that nobody touched it. And he opens it up and he drinks some water from it, closes it back up, and puts the seal back on it, and he goes. Obviously, there's going to be 1.5 million questions on just about every line of Gemara here, and if we would have time, we would definitely try to cover all of them as much as we can. The reason why we wouldn't drink something that's left uncovered overnight is because that maybe a snake got in there, or there's some kind of ruach ra that's going in there. But here, the Shadim the Melech HaShadim himself, he's being careful also about Gilui. One of the Mefarshim Taka learned that this was also a problem of Gilui. Besides the fact that he didn't want people touching it because maybe he felt that people, he doesn't, just like we don't trust Shadim, maybe they don't trust people. And there is some kind of mashma. We'll see that throughout the Gemara, that maybe that's what happened. So Shadre Levino ben Yoyada, so Shlema sent Ben Yoyada to catch Ashmedai, to tie him up and to bring him to Shlema. Now, Ben Yoyada is from the Zikanim. He's from the Ziknei Hadar because he was already Adam Gadol from the times of David HaMelech. This we know from the Psukim already. So Yoav le'shushul to the chakak le'shem. So Shlema gave Ben Yoyada a chain that had a Shem Hashem on it, a specific Shem on it, v'izkis of the chakak le'shem, and a ring that also had a Shem Hashem engraved in it, Gvave de Imra, and a bunch of puffs of wool, Vizika de Chamra, and a bunch of barrels of wine, a bunch of flasks of wine. So remember what we said before in the Gemara, that he was on the mountainside and he had a bar of water. So Ozal Kara Beremitatoy. So Ben Yoyada went under the mountain, went to the mountain lower underneath where Ashmedai's water was stored in the bar. V'shafinu lamaya, and he drilled a big hole underneath Ashmedai's pit of water, and all the water drained out. V'sasminu b'gvavi de imra, and he stuffed it up with the wool. V'kara biru me'iloi, and then he dug a pit even higher above where Ashmedai's water was. V'shafchinu lechamra v'tzminu. And he took the wine that he schlepped along with him, he poured it into that bar that was on top. So now there's 3 bars, there's one underneath where all the water was drained out, and then there's Ashmedai's bar. He's afraid of Gilui and all kinds of things, doesn't want to get contaminated by humans. And then he made another one on top with where he poured the wine into, and that wine drained into Ashmedai's bar, which was then sealed up. It doesn't say how we got here, but one thing is for sure: when he's going with a shushulta dechakik alei shem and an iskas dechakik alei shem, nobody's going to stop him. There's no traffic, there's no red lights, there's no police, there's nobody stopping him. Okay. So Salik Yosef Be'ilna, after that, Ben Yovav Ben Eliyahu goes down to a tree, and he's waiting for Ashmedai to come back from yeshiva. So Kiyasa, Sari Lagushbanka. He would always inspect the seal of his bar of water to make sure that nobody touched it. So Galia, he opened it up, Ashkech Chamra, and he saw that it was wine. So he says, Ksiv, Leitz Hayayin Hoyme Sheikh V'chol Shego B'Lo. He says the Leitz Hayayin, he's always drinking wine, and anybody who makes a mistake to drink it is never going to become wise. I mean, it's not for a wise man. It's not for me to drink. Uksiv Nus V'Yayin V'Tirish Yikach Leiv. Yayin causes nus, and it takes away a person's heart, and it's mavabel a person's mind, and we stay away from wine. So he didn't drink from it. Yeah? He gave a musa drush about not drinking wine, right? So kitzachi leisagile ishti. But then eventually he got thirsty enough that he drank it. A rov of a gun. So he fell asleep. He got shikah and he fell asleep. I guess Shadim get shikah, Shadim get thirsty. I mean, all these. I mean, the fact that they got thirsty, that the Gemara Chagiga says. And here we're seeing that, he fell asleep also. Okay, what happens next is like this. So once he fell asleep, now you can catch him. So Nachis also shadav yishushil to sasme. So he came out of the tree and went to Ashmedai and tied him up with the chains, and tied it well so he shouldn't be able to wiggle out of it. Now it's interesting because the Gemara doesn't mention what he did with the ring. Right. He just used the chain. So the Maharsha explains that he was tied up, he was still able to wiggle out and cause a lot of damage along the way, as we're going to soon see in the Gemara. So the ring wasn't to do anything physical with it, it was just to take it along to try to minimize the damages that Ashmedai is going to do along the way. Alright. So Ki Issa Hava Kamefarzel. So when he woke up, he was trying to wiggle out of it, and he was doing Bechol Koicha to get out of it. Mishtageya Umesasa Glanatke Himeno. He was going nuts to try to get out of it. Omar Leis Ben Yoda said to him, Shema the Marach Halach, Shema the Marach Halach. The Shem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on you, because the Shem of Hashem is engraved on this chain. I mean, he was telling him that you're not going to be able to do anything because you're tied down with this Shem Hashem. Kinagat leva ve'asi, when Ben Yoda brought him to Shlema, Mata Dikla. I mean, along the way. So what happened along the way? So this is the only part of traveling that we were finding out about so far. Because till now we said that Ben Yoda somehow managed to be on the mountain that Ashmedai was. And we'll see that this is a little bit of derech that it was lav dafka. We're still dealing with above time and space. We're not dealing with, regular, congestion, pricing, traffic, all kinds of these regular things. It's mamish not the system up here. So while they were traveling to Shlema, Mata Dikla Chav Beishadye. He brushed against the dekel, the palm tree, and he rubbed his back on it, I guess, and it fell down. The Matal Beishadye, and he passed by a house as well, and he rubbed his back on it, and it fell down. Mata Gabe Kubada, he Armalta Nafka. So when he passed by the hut that belonged to an almana, so the old almana came out to him. This is Samaches Amud Beis now. Ichanan Olei, and she begged him and pleaded with him that he should, not pass by with too much roughness because her house might fall down. So Kafala comes him, he moved his shoulder over in a funny way, Isbar Begamra, and he broke a bone in his shoulder. I guess they have bones too. We're learning a lot of things along the way, right? Because the Medrash in Bereshis Rabbah is mashma that they're more or less like an unfinished soul kind of thing. Okay. Either way, it doesn't necessarily mean that he broke a physical bone altogether. There never has to be the understanding. So Omar Ashmedai said, "Hainu d'chsiv eloshen raka tishbar goren," that the soft speaking is going to cause a bone to break. He said, "Listen, My job is to be rough and to smash down people's houses. Yeah. Nebuch, this almana came out and said, don't smash down my house. I twisted my shoulder the wrong way. I busted my shoulder. Listen, I gotta, that's, as I state in Pasuk Azazach. So the Pasuk, he was saying that the Pasuk was Mekayim by him. So Chaza, Sam Yadava Kotoy Be'orcha. So Ashmedai saw a blind person that veered off the road and he was, let's say walking in the fields, crashing into trees, didn't know where he was going anymore. So Askil Orche, so Ashmedai brought him back onto the main road. Fine. Chaza Ravya, Dava Kotoy Be'orche, he sees a shikr that also fell off the street, fell off the road. Askil Orche, he puts him back on the road also. Chaza Chedveser Dava Komach Dilei, he saw a chasana that there was a tremendous simcha over there, bacha, he started crying. He heard a person telling the shoemaker to make him shoes that are going to last him for 7 years. He started laughing. He saw a magician that was doing tricks. He started laughing. The Gemara is going to go through, the Gemara is going to explain what this whole business was. So it's interesting that he says to make him shoes for 7 years. And last summer I was very busy with this Ashtikal Teira, that it comes from the Sefer Chasidim, that we make a bracha in the morning. Shasa li kol tzarki is a bracha about shoes. So if you look I think I found it in one of the Sidurim that they published from Reb Chaim Kanievsky. So he brings over there a Sefer Chasidim that says that there's a certain ruach hatoma that share around shoes, and that's why you should never wear someone else's shoes. As I'm in a spooky kind of thing from Sefer Chasidim. Reb Chaim has dukim and psukim like this from the Gemara is like this, but it's just interesting. It's just talking about shadim, talking about interesting things. He says you don't wear. We'll see in the Gemara. So kimat lahasam, when they brought him to Shlema, Melech le'aylu legabe de Shlema atlas yom, they didn't bring him to meet Shlema for 3 days. The question is, this sounds like it was done b'dafka, but they didn't tell Ashmedai why. So Yom Kam Amalu, on the first day, Ashmedai said to the people that were by the king, why doesn't the king want to see me? Amalei, so they told him, Anse Mishtia, he drank too much, he's got to wait for his wine to wear off. It's not so nice to say this about Shlema HaMelech, but that's what they told him. It doesn't necessarily mean that would happen, but they were just trying to tell Ashmedai that, he's got to wait 3 days. So, Shokal Levinta Oisav HaChaverta, he took one brick and placed it on another one. So also Amalei L'Shlema. So this is what Shlema is very curious to know. Let's say, for argument's sake, that Shlema knew very, very well what's going on with all these shadim, even before he's going to meet him face to face. Chances are he knew, right? Because the Gemara says Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai what he knew, the Sichas D'Kolim and the Sichas Shadim and all these other kind of things. So Shlema Zecher knew that as well. It's rather fascinating. If you take a look in the Shema G'dolim, the Chidah goes through a whole bunch of svarim that Shlomo HaMelech wrote, and all kinds of math things and science things and whatever. There is a belief, although I don't know if this is accurate or not, but they say that Aristotle got his Chachma because he went into and figured it all out from Chachma Shlomo, which is very hard to hear for many reasons, but that's not the discussion for now, but just to throw out something interesting. Okay. So, Amrulay, so he tells Shlomo, Amalahu, Shlomo said to his people, Hachi Amalahu. This is what we told them, Hada Shakyu. So Ashmedai is being miramis to you by doing this, that you should give the king to drink more. What was this? Because he wanted to get Shlomo back, so to speak. Because the way that the way that Ben Yoda chapped Ashmedai to begin with was through drinking wine, so he wants to get Shlomo back by giving him wine to drink as well. That's interesting, because these psukim that he said, where did these psukim come from? Not from Shlomo HaMelech himself. Hayayin HaMeshecher, it's Pasuk in Mishlei. So Ashmedai was very up on the news. He knew Mishlei also, right? So it was contemporary Mechaber. He knew from the contemporary Paiskim and Mechaber. Or it's Kenzain that it was just it was a babusta zach. People stayed away from wine. You don't have to be such a goyin oilam to figure out the not good things that wine can cause. Okay, weiter. So what happens next is like this. So L'machar, the next day, they still didn't let him into see Shalom HaMelech. So Amalu, he said to them, why doesn't the king want to see me today? So Amalei, people told him, he ate too much. He's got to wait for the food to settle. So shakal levinta mechavra oisa ara. So this that he stacked up 2 bricks, he took one off and put one on the ground. Obviously, there's a lot of the sidus over here of what we could learn, but Mitzvah Shem, one day we'll learn it. So also Amalev they told Shlema what happened. Amalahu, Shlema said to his people, "They're Hachi Amalek. This is what you should tell them. This is what Ashmedai is being Ramaz. Don't give him any more food to eat. Take away his food." After 3 days, he was willing to meet with him. So Ashmedai took a stick and he showed. He measured it for 4 amas and he threw it in front of Shlema. So Amalei, he said to Shlema, when a person dies, when a person leaves this world, he only has daled amas. Meaning, don't try to show that you're this big, all-powerful king, because one day you're going to be in the grave as well. Okay. So Amalei to Shlema said to him, I don't want anything from you. He said, "I'm not interested in kunzin with you. Let's not waste any time. Let's not make any kunzin over here. The only thing I want from you is I need to build a Beis Hamikdash. Tell me where the shamir is, and zaygizun. You could go on your way." So, this whole Torah is just to show, but Pashas, and we'll see in the Hemshech Gemara also, see how the entire world, just like the Gemara says that Yom HaShishi is referring to the day of Matan Torah. So too over here we're going to see in the Hemshech Gemara how much had to go into the Binyan Beis Hamikdash. It was a fascinating story. Why does the Gemara care to tell us this story? I don't know that this is the pshat. I'm just thinking that we see so many different parts of the world. And I mean parts of the world. I mean the Kaychas Atuma, the Shedim, and the different parts of nature, and all the different Kaychas that are working from Allah Zaitan, from all different parts of nature, all different parts of the world, are all coming together to Shlema HaMelech, who's Chacham Rikolodam, to build a Beis Hamikdash. Aside from the fact that if you look in the Psukim, it says that this king brought that, and that king brought that, and that Melech brought the other thing, and Shlema was Mufursim B'chol Ha'olam Kulei. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the nature itself was going to be Meshubit to the Binyan Beis Hamikdash. So Amalei, after this whole project, he finally is meeting with Ashmedai, and he's like, "No, where's the shamir? Give me the worm." So Amalei, did you let Masali? I didn't have it. Yeah, what a disappointment. Well, Sarah the Yam Masali. It was given over to the Sarah the Yam, the Malach that's in charge of the Yam. And the only one who he gives it to is the Tarnagol Bra, certain kind of wild bird, that he's very, very neman on his shvuah. And because he's neman with the shvuah and nobody else is trusted with the shvuah, so he's not going to give it, he has a very slim chance of getting it. He basically said, try your luck, but there's a very slim chance you're going to get it. My oven, what does the Tarnagol Habar do with this worm? So Ashmedai told him, Manti Leila Ture de Lesbo Yishuv, he brings it to mountains that have nothing growing there, it doesn't have any trees or shrubs or anything. Umanach le'ashena de Tura upaka Tura, he puts it on the bottom of the mountain, and the mountain splits open like a big, I forgot the exact word for it, when the big something opens in between the two mountains, or
valley.
Not a valley. Valley is there already. Something like when a crevice, some kind of a crevice is not the word I'm looking for, but there's a crevice will open up there. And then the Tarnagol Bro goes and drops in all kinds of seeds there, and all kinds of shrubs and trees grows there, and then it has what to eat. Behind the Metargamina Nagar Tura, the Duchifas, which is one of the birds that's mentioned in the Torah. So it's the Tarnagol Habar, it's this wild bird, and it's a Nagar Tura, which literally means the one that splits mountains. Because it literally splits mountains, it takes this shamir worm and splits the mountains in half, and then it makes things grow there. This is what it does. So Batku Kina de Tarnagol Brod Isle Bani. So Shlomo Melech sent shluchim to find out where this bird would be found, where this duchifas would be found, until they found a nest of this bird that had a little bunch of chicks in it. and they covered over. They wanted to see that this shamir wouldn't work. I mean, they were trying to pull any sort of shtick to make it that they should be able to get this worm out. So they covered over the nest with a zugisa chivarta, which is a very, very expensive kind of glass, which is mentioned in a few places, mentioned in Saita and in Brachas. It was that there was B'yom Shachar Beis HaMikdash, this thing disappeared, and it didn't, which is interesting because they're using this in it was Shachar Beis HaMikdash, and they're getting that to build the Beis HaMikdash. I mean, think about the Mishnah in Shabbos that says that you're allowed to you're allowed to do whatever you want l'tzarchei mila on Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer says you're even allowed to chop down trees to make a fire to what. This is all the cheshbonos that are going into making the Beis HaMikdash, but you have to realize what was going on. Think about Shlomo HaMelech growing up as a child by a David HaMelech. So besides for all the tefillas and the whole situations, that one of David's main goals in life was to see that Beis HaMikdash built. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and tells him, says, listen, not in your lifetime, but Shlomo B'nai, he's going to be the one. It's like Shlomo HaMelech feels like this is his whole job in life is to build this Beis HaMikdash. He's got to do whatever he could. Doesn't matter if he'll have to deal with the Ashmedai. Doesn't matter he'll have to deal with Tarnagol Bra. It doesn't matter who he has to deal with. He's got to do this. So ki asa boy lemel v'layasi. So then when the bird came to feed the babies, he wasn't able to because there was a glass that was covering it. So azal aisi shmir v'aisi elay. So he brought the shamir and placed it on the glass, because then it'll split the glass and be able to feed the children. So Rama Bekala, Shadye, Shakle. So he made a noise, and a very loud noise, and the Tarnagol dropped the worm, and he took it. Now the problem is he made a shvuah to the Sarah Shalyam about this thing that he's not going to give it to anybody else. So Ozal Chonak Nafsha Shvuah. He went and he choked himself for his shvuah because he knew that he wasn't going to be able to return it to the Sar Hayam. This is just like you didn't even know what to think over here. You gotta just So Marsha says like this, that the Shamir was given over to Sar Shalyam because that's where it grows, that's where it lives. And the because it's extremely powerful. And if you put it on a mountain, it can destroy anything. So you don't like your neighbor parking spots or whatever, you put it on his house, no my house, right? His whole house just chopped up. So he didn't want, because he was afraid that the people were going to use it to damage other people, so then he went and he did away with himself. Okay. So the Gemara site over here, they bring that the Gemara site has a whole mahalach, the Tarnagol Bro was the one that knew how to take care of it and deal with it properly, but now that there's no more Tarnagol Bro, so who's going to take care of it now? So the Gemara site gives a mahalach and how to deal with it. Okay. Amalei ben Yo. So ben Yo said to Ashmedai, this is going back to when they were traveling back. So my time why is it that when you saw this blind person that got veered off the road, that you put him back on the road? Amalei, so Ashmedai told him, when Shemayim, they announced that this person is a tzaddik gomer, and a person who does this, and anyone who does this person a favor, is going to get is guaranteed a chayil kanel mabo, which is very fascinating over here. So number one, we know that Ashmedai couldn't know what they're announcing in Mesefta Derkiyah because he learns there. That's not shver, but it's like,
what does he need?
What does he need to schus him? And one Ben Yoda he's from the Ziknei Hadar. Why doesn't he have any inkling about what's going on? What does he need to ask him for? Obviously, when you're dealing with the world of Shadim, we're not dealing with a physical world the way we're thinking of it. Shadim are not demons. That's definitely not what it is. I think there's countless Gemaras all around of what it is. Okay, and why is it that when you saw the drunk that fell off the road, you put him back on the road? So Amalei told him, the Rosh Gomer, because they announced about him in Shemayim that he's a Rosh Gomer, and they announced in Shemayim that anybody who's going to do a favor for this person, so it'll take away that person's chusim from Olam Haba, and in Shemayim they don't want to give this person any chusim. He's not worthy of any chusim. Yeah? Actually, I also got drunk a little while ago, right? and he was not that Ashmedai were calling him a Rasha, but the drunk. It's a little bit interesting here. Okay. My time Why is it that when you saw the chasanu you cried? He says, because I know that this chasan's going to die, and the wife is going to have to wait 13 years to do yibum, because there's a baby there that's waiting, but the baby can't do yibum until it becomes a gadol, so he's got to wait until he's 13. So they're going to be waiting for 13 years, and he was crying from the fact that he's going to have to wait 13 years for the marriage of the yibum, the chalitza, whatever it is. But it's interesting. The Rashi says that it was chalitza, right? I mean, if you look in the Gemara, because the Gemara says that Rishayna, the mitzvah, everyone did yibum, but then it was chazal. They were doing it shalei l'shem mitzvahs, and then they went back to doing. They said you have to do mitzvahs with chalitza, and then. That's a famous Gemara. It's one of the places where the Gemara says, "Ach shadari." You think that we're doing so good. And the times of Shlomo HaMelech, people were mistama doing yibum l'shem mitzvah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, from Rashi, it sounds like they're doing chalitza though. It's something to look into. So my time kishamate lahu gaver domle leushkova avid lemesan l'shevshin l'achichas. Why is it that when you saw the person that asked the shoemaker to make him shoes for 7 years, you laughed? This person, how does this person even know that he's going to live 7 days? He's asking him to make him shoes for 7 years. Meaning, what are the chances that this person is going to live for that long? So, I learned by Reb Chaim as a Gerelik for a little bit, and I was learning this Gemara Shabbos afternoon, and he came by and he said, "Oh, you're learning this? Let me tell you what Reb Leib said." Reb Leib Malin, his Rebbe, said on this Rashi that he says in the previous two things, by the blind person, by the drunk, he made very definitive statements.
Right.
But when it came to this person, he said, "How does he know?" I mean, who said he's going to even live 7 days? He didn't say he's going to die. He said, "Why are you ordering shoes to last for 7 years? If Meichet Teisi, he may only live 7 days." Right? And Reb Leib was medayik like this in Rashi, because he says, "Eina betuach lichos shiva yamim shema lamachar yamas." So in the other case, he knew he was going to die. He knew the person was going to die, so he cried. But over here, he laughed. But it's not dafka that he's going to die. He was just saying, like, don't be so certain of yourself that you're going to live for that long. Yeah? It's interesting, because this is the second time in the Gemara already that he's being masked Indian of Misa, because he already told Shlomo with the stick that, and it's even more interesting about that. I forgot to mention that later on the Gemara is going to darshan v'zeh chelki mikol amoli v'zeh. So what is v'zeh? So Chad Omar, the Gemara says that's a makloi. That was the stick. All that Shlomo HaMelech was left with after his encounter and the traumatic incident that Ashmedai, as we'll see in the Gemara, all he was left with was his stick. So it's interesting that Ashmedai is already making an asik with a stick with him, even in the beginning of the story. Why is it that when you saw the magician doing tricks that you laughed? Because I know that he's sitting on a big treasure that's hiding underneath him, and until he's... Meaning, I see that let's say in his backyard, meaning in the place where he's standing right here, there's a big treasure that's hiding underneath. And he's doing all kinds of kishuf, and he's making a show when he's trying to get a few dollars, so put a few cents in the hat, right? Like the chaver, they play music on the, they dump a few coins in the hat. So he says this guy's sitting on a fortune of money. He's doing all kinds of kishuf to try to find out all kinds of things. He doesn't even know that he's got it in his own. He's got it in his own pocket. Okay, so Tarche Gabe Adabani LeBeis Hamikdash. Shlomo held Ashmedai by him until he built the Beis Hamikdash. Now it doesn't say when this story happened, right? But it took many years till there were actually. It took 7 years for the actual being in the Beis Hamikdash. But it's interesting because the parashas. I don't remember exactly. I have to take a look in Malachim in the beginning when it talks about when Shlomo started building the Beis Hamikdash. When did he start the avodah? Now the passage says that the stones that he needed to build the Beis Hamikdash, that's the ikr edifice and the structure of the Beis Hamikdash. That's what he needed the shamir for. So this is before the basics of the building of the Beis Hamikdash. So this is probably in the beginning of those 7 years. So Yom Echad have a koil chudei. Shlema was together with Ashmedai. So Amalei, so Shlema said to Ashmedai, Ksiv k'toyafos re'em loy. The pasuk says, the Bilam said in his brachos to Klal Yisrael, Kael Mitzrayim Mitzrayim, Hashem took them out of Mitzrayim, k'toyafos re'em loy, like the toyafos re'em. V'amrinon, and we darshan this pasuk, k'toyafos elam malachi hasharis. K'toyafos are malachi hasharis. And re'em is Zok Rashi, k'toyafos re'em loy, like Kosh Baruch Hu yesh le toyafos Ra'amim l'mishlachtav l'para paranos b'shlichus. Kosh Baruch Hu has armies of re'emim that he could send out to pay back the paranos for those that need to get punished. So what is this? He says that k'toyafos, the armies are malachi hasharis, and the re'em is referring to the shedim. So Marav Usaychu Minon, what are, what's the difference between you guys and the malachi hasharis? Yeah. And he said, Mela malachim have many milos over humans, but you the shedim, what kind of milos do you have over us? So because you eat, you drink, you're parim v'ravim, and you die like people. So why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu being mishtabech in you in the same pasuk that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying that he's being mishtabech in Malachi Hasharis? So Amalei, so Ashmedai said to Shlema, Shekel shultu midai. Take this chain, this shalshelas barzel, take it from me. V'havli is kosech, and give me your ring that has a Shem Hashem on it. V'achul lachur v'soyin, I'll show you my godless. So I don't know that he was giving Shlomo an option, or he was forcing him into this. But shakla l'shushulta minei v'havli is kosech. So Shlomo gave him the chain and the ring. Now it sounds like that this ring and this shalshelas was with Ashmedai the whole time, because we spoke before, Shlomo gave it to Ben Yehoyada to protect him and to protect all those around him, to make sure that Ashmedai wasn't going to get out of control. Now it sounds like this would be a chidus, and it's like a power struggle over here almost, and it sounds like that Ashmedai is telling Shlomo, give it to me. Enough with the protections. Let me be. And he's like, let me be who I am. Let me be myself.
I understood it differently. It was like, let me take this stuff off and I'll show you.
Yeah, but that's the pashtus. That's the pashtus.
Yeah,
that's the pashtus of Gemara, right? But I'm just saying that what was going on over here was that Vai says from the Gemara that he was holding him down. He was squashing him the whole time that he shouldn't be able to misbehave. And now he's saying, you want to really see what I can do? You want to see who I really am? It's like a moment of truth. So Shakla l'shushilta minei v'yavle is to say, he gave him the chain and he gave him the ring. So Baalei. So he swallowed up Shlomo. Ashmedai swallowed up Shlomo. Oisei l'chad gape b'rekia. He placed one of his wings in the rekia. V'l'chad gape ba'ara. And one wing was on the ground. Paska abba mea parsi. And he sent Shlomo flying 400 parsa. And he was far away. He was nowhere to be seen, basically. And And what happened was, that's when Ashmedai decided that he's going to sit on Shlomo's throne. Because Shlomo ruled over the Shedim. And in a certain Eifin Kubid, it was an emistic power struggle. Because Shlomo was really controlling the Shedim, and Ashmedai felt like, I'm really in charge. So Shlomo had these Shemus of Hashem that were going to be able to keep him tame. Once he gave them to Ashmedai, he gave in to him, and now now it's a little too late. Now Shlomo is gone. Where'd he go? It doesn't really say where he went. It could be there's a medrash that says says like the name of the place where he ended up, but I don't know if I want to know what that place was. Yeah, Ashmedai is sending him far away, not such a great place. Alehi Shaita, at that time, Omar Shlomo refers back to that incident of when Ashmedai sent him away. What's it all worth? A person's entire amelos, his entire toil under the sun. And this is all I was left with from all my toiling, all my hard work. My vizeh, what's vizeh mean? So Rav Shmuel Sachamachlekes Rav Shmuel. Chadam Maklai, Chadam Gunda. One says it was his stick, the other one says it was his clothing. So now that he was chased away from his throne, and all he's left with was his beggar, or all he was left with was his stick, because that's all that he was left with. It's very interesting. I don't remember exactly the Vart. I don't remember exactly who says it, but he didn't give up his malchus. He was still a melech on the stick. He was still a melech on his beg. Whatever it was a very unfortunate situation now. I mean, he was a person who controlled everything. And now Ashmedai, blew him to the other side of the planet. He's in some... We're not talking about him in a physical anything here. It could be, this means that he was in some in-between metaphysical something, blew him to some other kind of Ashmedai planets. I have no idea. And, but Shlema didn't lose... He didn't lose his chashivas ha'adam, so to speak. That he still walked around with a stick, and he still had his clothing. Shlomo wasn't wearing all of a sudden pauper's clothing as much as the books want us to think like that. He was still dressed b'chavadik. So Shlomo was knocking on the doors to get some food or whatever. So he was walking around and he's saying that I used to be the king of the Yidden in Yerushalayim, but they didn't want to believe him. So he came back to Sanhedrin. Amr Rabbanan to Rabbanan and said, "Michli Shaita b'chad milsa le'sarach." Shaita got a lot of stuff up his sleeve. He doesn't keep repeating the same thing insistently. He doesn't sound so insane. So my high. Let's look into this. Let's see. Maybe there's something here. So Amr Leila ben Yo. So the Sanhedrin said to Ben Yo ben Yehoyada, who was Shlomo's right hand man, "Kaboylach malkel gabei. Did you have any contact with Shlomo recently?" Amar lahu. He said to them, "Lo, nothing doing." Let's say it was his chavrusa. He said, "When's the last time I was him?" I don't know. It was 2 weeks. He didn't give me a call, not a text, not an email. Shkengunish. So what happened? Now this is when things start getting really bizarre. So they sent a message. The Sanhedrin sent a message to Shlomo Melch's wives, which there were many of them. Did the king call you in lately? He sent to them in. Yeah. Ka'asi. He's coming to us and we're communicating. So now the Sanhedrin's a little bit wondering what's going on, because Ben Yehoyada is not showing up, but his wife, he is showing up, so he's around, he's not around, what's happening? So he sent the Sanhedrin sent the message to the women, the wives of Shlomo Melech, Bidku Bekare, check his feet. Why? Because this is the Makar, this is where it comes from, that shade them have chicken feet, or similar to chicken feet. So they sent the message to the Sanhedrin, B'muke Ka'asi. He doesn't take off his socks when he comes into the bedroom, he comes in with his socks on. So we can't tell what his feet look like. And then they say something that gets even more interesting. The Katava lahu b'nidusayu. He's being tevea us for Tashra Ramita even when we need this. And that's not the Shlomo Melch's type of thing to do. It didn't never happen before. It's very strange. And he also wanted to spend time with his mother in this way. This is not kosher. This is very much not the style of Shlomo Melch. This is very strange. So Asiru l'Shlomo v'havale iskasev sheshilta d'chaku kalei. Once the Sanhedrin heard this, they understood that this wasn't Shlomo that was sitting on the throne, and they chapped it was Ashmedai. So they brought Shlomo there, and they returned the shalshelas and the tabas with the shemus on it, that he can recapture Ashmedai, so to speak. Ki ayel, when Shlomo went back into the Beis HaMelech, Chazia, he saw Ashmedai parach, he flew away. Shlomo was very afraid of him still. This is why Shlomo Melech has shishim gibarim that were surrounding his beds, gibar Yisrael, holding onto swords. Obviously, the drashas of Chazal are that these gibar Yisrael are the shishim gibarim, are the shishim mesechtes, and they were the gibar Yisrael. They were the people, the big lamdan. They knew how to learn. Okay. I think we'll stop here. It's inside to davening, but I think this is my last year of the season, and Baruch Hashem was a tremendous chus and a tainug, emesdig tainug to give the shurim, and continue learning Torah, everybody. That's it. That's the main thing. All right.
Pleasure listening.
Sure.